Shapru, just one last thing. Virus everywhere. ये लगा दो. ये लो वहाँ पर. किधर है? वो स्विच बोर्ड पीछे है. तो कैसा रहा राधाष्टमी फेस्टिवल सेलिब्रेशंस? जन्माष्टमी एंड नाउ राधाष्टमी.
अच्छे रहे प्रभु जी.
Most busy 15 days. नहीं? ओके. इसका भी इलाज करेंगे. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुर्मीलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामी नामिने. नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासवी गौर भक्तवृंदा. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. हरे कृष्णा. So
Hare
welcome
Krishna.
everyone to our Bhakti Shastri Shri Ishopanishad discussions.
ओके. नहीं मैं कर लेता हूँ.
Hare Krishna.
Okay. So Shri Ishopanishad, how are you finding it? Interesting, fascinating, very
Yes,
philosophically terse, tough सा लग रहा है क्या? ओवरहेड ट्रांसमिशन वायर्स में थोड़ा जलने का स्मेल आ रहा है. तो मानसून में थोड़ा सा कई बार शॉर्ट सर्किट हो जाता है. कुछ शॉर्ट सर्किट तो नहीं हो गए. Casualties of Ishopanishad. Yeah, it means you can say honestly. पहली बार पढ़ रहे हैं, चलो. सेविंग ग्रेस. ओके. Okay, so online devotees are you able to hear?
yes,
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, good.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhuji.
So we are on a very, very interesting section, the first beginning verses of the Ishopanishad, which are the foundation for the whole philosophical premise of Ishopanishad. The Gaudiya Vaishnava practices and the whole culture that we practice, each and everything is based on solid, concrete philosophical principles. It's not something, uh, in the air that कुछ भी बना दिया, कुछ भी कर रहे हैं. Anything and everything that we are doing has a sound basis from scriptural quotations from the verses in the Shastras, right? So, and that's what, if we know why we are doing what we are doing, then our conviction increases behind the practice. So that's the reason. It's very important. Siddhant baliya chitta na karha alas. Kaviraj Goswami says that Siddhanta baliya, in understanding Siddhanta or philosophical conclusions, chitte na karah alas. It becomes little bit of hard work to try to understand these things, but then one should not be lazy in that. That's the thing which Kaviraj Goswami says. Okay, so share this PowerPoint. We have a very nice background music going on. राधे 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 बरसाने वाली राधे. तो अगर क्लास में मन ना लगे तो you can tune into that frequency also. Okay, so we are discussing the Ishopanishad. We have discussed the invocation verse. Okay, so I'll give you a quick recap before we process, because थोड़ा सा राधाष्टमी feast already है, तो amidst all the dhoklas and the samosas and the kala jams, no offense intended to our online janta. So we also invite you if you even want to come now. But so we have discussed the invocation verse, We discussed the introduction first, which was a lecture by Srila Prabhupada, given in the United Kingdom, I suppose. So Prabhupada gave a lecture, the meaning of the Vedas, something like that. And based on that, the transcription of the lecture is the introduction to Ishopanishad. And then we began with this invocation verse, Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam, where we discussed that this particular verse gives us three foundational principles for our Gaudiya Vaishnava Siddhanta. Can someone tell what are the three principles we derived from this verse? Yes. Yes. So these three, thank you, Mataji. Hare Krishna. So these three things, first of all, Lord is perfect and complete, and the absolute truth has to be perfect and complete by definition. And anything that comes out from him is also perfect and complete, because if something which comes out, which is an emanation, which is a production from the Lord, if it is incomplete, which means if the product is defective, the manufacturer is defective. So the product also has to be perfect. So the product is not defective, the product is effective. Effective as per the design. किस लिए डिजाइन किया उस हिसाब से प्रोडक्ट परफेक्ट चल रहा है material world. And the third thing is that even though so many complete things come out of him, he still remains complete. Even though he produces this material world, which is quote unquote contaminated with the three modes, he doesn't become affected by the three modes. He remains perfect and complete. So we discuss these things, and we also discuss the fallouts of this. That we spoke about how there are certain traditions which talk about transcendence of God, and certain traditions which talk about immanence of God. Transcendence is Lord is there, वहां है, उनको इधर मत लाओ, उनको लिप्त मत करो इन सब इस जगत के कलमशों में. So that's there, जैसे बताया था वात्सल्य भाव कि भगवान को इसमें लिप्त मत करो. Good feeling. The other extreme is that Lord, the immanence of God, कि कहाँ और देखने की जरूरत, यही तो है सब, सब कुछ भगवान है. जहां देखो वहां पे भगवान है. सूर्य भगवान, वायु भगवान, पहाड़ भगवान, मतलब सो वर्शिप एवरीथिंग इज नेचर इज गॉड. और इसका कुछ ज्यादा और खींचना है तो तुम भी भगवान मैं भी भगवान, न तेरी न मेरी. सो एवरीथिंग इज गॉड, एवरीवन इज गॉड. सो now with the understanding that the real Siddhanta is God is both transcendent and immanent, which means God is there beyond this world, where and at the same time God is present in this world also, but in a different feature. In the feature of Paramatma and Brahman feature, he is present in this world. And he can also descend as an avatar, or he can come as the self same personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna. So that is his Swarata nature. So these are things that we have discussed. Yeah. So now one more angle to this completeness of God, which we didn't discuss, but today is a very appropriate day to discuss this. So in most of the traditions that exist, God is generally considered as male. Now we discussed that some traditions, they don't even say you can't make a deity of God, you can't make a photo of God or an image of God, that's blasphemy of God. But nonetheless, even when they refer to God, they refer as He. Is it not? They don't refer as she. Now, I don't know why the feminists don't raise any question about that. Yeah, God should be he, God should be she also, no? Right? Equal rights वहां पे भी लेके जाना चाहिए. So you see, it's already there. Because God is perfect and complete. Om Purnam Adah Purnam Idam. If he is perfect and complete, he has the personal and the impersonal feature both. We discussed that. The Dvaita and the Advaita principle both apply to the absolute. At the same time, God is has both these features of the supreme masculine and the supreme feminine potency, both the Shakti and the Shaktiman. So that is the Samambonam, the supreme understanding of God in full. राधा कृष्ण प्रणय विकृति लादिनी शक्ति अस्माद एकात्मानम अपि भुविपुरा देह भेदम गतौतु. Param was today morning mentioning this verse. Radha Krishna Pranaya Vikriti. The love of Radha and Krishna transform is the Ladini potency. And Ekatmanam, Radha and Krishna were one. They are one. But Api Bhuvipura Deha Bhedam. But they have manifested into two forms for Ladini Shakti, for manifesting pastimes. Yes? So this is the understanding that we have been gifted with, that we have a complete understanding of God. The disciplinary feature of God, who enacts the laws and the law, who is a lawmaker. Yes. So most of the people, they understand the one feature of God, which is the lawmaker. And जब आप, if you see one small agent of the law, of the lawmaker, while you are ड्राइविंग और अचानक से कोई ठुल्ला आपकी गाड़ी रोकता है, ए साइड कर इधर इधर. सो नाउ समवन में बी ए बिलियनियर, लेकिन वो लॉ मेकर के एक एजेंट को देख के, मर्सिडीज गाड़ी हो चाहे बेंटली हो या कैडिलैक हो, उसको यार द हार्ट स्किप्स अ बीट, क्या हो गया भाई. सो व्हेन यू थिंक अबाउट अ लॉ मेकर, व्हाट हैपेंस? देयर इज फियर. यस. सो वी सी हाउ that every aspect, behind every aspect of the process that we have been given, the holistic philosophical and theological conclusions that we have been given, there are they develop the culture and the practices and the whole experience that we get. The experience, if you just focus on the law and the lawmaker, is fear, naturally. There's no doubt about it. But then when you think about the feminine aspect of God, there is forgiveness, there is kindness, there is compassion, there is gentleness, there is tenderness. Yes? So there, the disciplinary aspect is counterbalanced by the compassionate aspect. Is it not? So it begins with fear. It has to begin with fear. For a child, uh, without fear, no one is going to study, right? As children, as growing up, and each one of us, did we want to go to school? कोई ऐसा बच्चा हुआ है पैदा माइकल लाल जो बोले कि नहीं मुझे तो स्कूल जाना है? Always trying to find excuses. But then there has to be पापा को बता दूंगी तू नहीं जा रहा है स्कूल, right? अच्छा ठीक है जा. Yes. So both the aspects are important. Yes, if you just take the feminine aspect of God, then probably spoiled child. And if you just take the disciplinary aspect of God, then there's just fear. And that fear then transforms into violence. Because where there's fear, then there is survival instincts. Is it not? So religions which are just based on fear aspect of God, then you will see violence there. But then we have the compassionate aspect of God, in the feminine aspect of God, in Srimati Radharani. Then there is compassion, there is forgiveness, and in Panchavati, when Lord Ram was carrying this Dhanush, the bow, then Sita Maya was saying that why are you carrying this bow? We have come to the forest as mendicants, as ascetics. We should, why do you need? So of course, Lord Ram told that this is also necessary because although Bharat is ruling the kingdom of Ayodhya, but I consider that I have been given the responsibility to take care of the forests. So here I am here to discipline the demoniac. Therefore, yada yada hi dharmasya glani bhavati bharata paritranaya sadhuna vinashaya cha dushkratam. So yes, that power aspect of God is also there, and then the compassion aspect of God is also there, and that makes the complete experience that we get from Janmashtami to Radhashtami. Yes. So can we thank Srila Prabhupada and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for giving us this whole experience, which is each and every part of it is so perfectly blended and designed for the experience that we get it, right? So there are some just reflecting on this complete understanding that we have got. I thought we'll spend some 5-10 minutes more to really appreciate, because today is a very, very special day. Ishopanishad. Ishopanishad is the Upanishad which is directed towards Isha, the Supreme Lord. But Isha is controlled by Srimati Radharani. Right? So the controller of all controllers is controlled by Srimati Radharani. So therefore, we can take some 5-10 minutes to also reflect and ponder about this understanding. यदि गौर न होई तो तभी के होई तो के मन धरिताम दे आधार महिमा प्रेम रस सीमा जगत जानत की. So if it were not for Gauranga Mahaprabhu, we would not have understood Radha Tattva. We would not have understood the mellows of love of Vrindavan as we have, as we are aware. What is that verse? Mahaprabhu matam idam pradhara na para. आराध्यो भगवान व्रजेश तनया तद्धाम वृंदावन रम्यत कांच उपासना व्रज वधु वर्गेन या कल्पिता श्रीमद् भागवतम प्रमाणम अमलम प्रेमापुमर्तो महान श्री चैतन्य महाप्रभु मतमिदम तत्रादर ना para. What is the mata? What is the opinion of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that has been given? Aradhyo Bhagwan Vrajesha Tanaya. Aradhya, the most worshipable Lord, is Vrajesha Tanaya. Nanda Maharaj's son, Lord Krishna, Nandanandan. Tadadhama, where to worship him? Whom to worship? Krishna. Where to worship him? Vrindavan. And please. And then how to worship him? Following the footsteps of the gopis of Vrindavan, headed by Srimati Radharani. And what is the proof for this? Is it whimsically done? जैसे आज सुबह गौरंग तो बोल रहे थे, ये राधा रानी किनका इन्वेंशन है? क्या बंगाल में इन्वेंट किया है? तो श्रीमद् भागवत प्रमाणम अमलम. So this understanding that we have is very, very profound, and just we'll try to understand a little bit about Srimati Radharani's tattva, and this will also connect back to what we are discussing in Ishopanishad. So when we say Srimati Radharani, or we worship Srimati Radharani, or someone else outside, मतलब बाहर भी लोग बोल रहे हैं राधे राधे बोलो वृंदावन में डोलो, तो मतलब everyone is talking Radhe Radhe, from the rickshaw wala to the cycle wala to everyone, like people are saying Radhe Radhe. So is it that is the same thing? Hmm? So एक one boy in his dreams he was नींद में बोल रहा था हे माँ हे माँ हे माँ. उसकी मदर बोली मुझसे इतना प्रेम करता है नींद में भी हे माँ मुझे पुकार रहा है. पिताजी ने बोला उसके क्लास में लड़की है हे माँ, उसको पुकार रहा है. So now what we really understand, or first of all, have we understood when we say Radhe Radhe, whom are we referring to? What is the profound uh, the understanding that is there, right? That has to be clear. So what we have been given in this Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya is something very, very special. So just something on that. So once, recently means a few months back, there was a news that some particular lady who had come from the United States, she was in Jaipur, and she was going around seeing jewelry shops, and she was really amazed by the kind of ethnic jewelry. And then her guide took her to some other shop, and then there she purchased a good deal. 3 crore का ज्वेलरी खरीदा. But then when she went back to US, someone told her this is fake jewelry, this is artificial jewelry. वो 1,000 रुपए का ज्वेलरी 3 करोड़ में खरीद के लेके आए. Because she didn't know what it actually is supposed to be, right? So although she went to other shops जहाँ पे प्योर ज्वेलरी मिल रहा था, she came to know about ethnic jewelry. But then someone said, "Arey, I will give you a better deal." And then she went to some other shop, and then she was duped. So um, what is the difference and what is the depth of the understanding? So when we say the love of Srimati Radharani for Krishna, how we understand and how the general world outside understand. There's a world of difference between the two. So one thing is, it is said that Srimati Radharani and Krishna, they are associated in the Parakiya Rasa. Parakiya Bhav, right? The Swakiya and the Parakiya, right? So Swakiya is wedded love and Parakiya is out of wedlock. So now there are verses where it is mentioned that Parvati and Arundhati and all of these chaste ladies, they pray to Srimati Radharani for their chastity, to give them the strength for their chastity. Can you imagine? Now people outside, they accuse, they say that हमें तो we worship the Krishna of Kurukshetra, who spoke Gita, but not this Krishna who is a just going around with so many other men's wives. So we don't worship the Krishna of this Rasa Leela. But what's the real understanding? So there are acharyas have written that all of these most chaste ladies, most chaste ladies are there. Draupadi, Arundhati. There are these 5 or 7, right? So these 7 chaste ladies, they worship Srimati Radharani for the strength to be chaste. So what's the understanding behind that? So what is the understanding of chastity? The understanding of chastity is that a woman sees that the husband is a representative of Lord Narayan for me. So therefore, just as I am supposed to be, as a jiva, supposed to be chaste to Lord Vishnu or Lord Narayan, and the husband is a representative of Lord Narayan. So therefore, this chastity is derived from the chastity of the jiva to Krishna, right? That's the understanding. And all of the Arundhati and all of them, they see that in front of Srimati Radharani, Narayan is not able to maintain his form, four-handed form. His two hands melt and he becomes Krishna. So we maintain our chastity in the understanding that the husband is a representative of Lord Narayan, and here Lord Narayan is unable to maintain his form, and he transforms in like actually Krishna manifests. So therefore, they see that the most chaste is Srimati Radharani, right? Because the ultimate chastity is to be chaste to the Supreme Lord Krishna. So that's the understanding. So these are things which our Gaudiya Vaishnava Acharyas have given us. So our other understanding is that Gopi Bhartur Pad Kamaleo Dasanudasa. We don't directly jump to directly talking about pastimes of Radha and Krishna. We go through Gopi Bhartu. We are happiest to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the gopis, who are in turn serving the Manjaris and the Ashtasakhis, and then ultimately the divine couple. So Pujala Ragapatha Gaurava Bhange. The understanding that it is a very, very exalted and lofty subject matter. It is beyond us to approach. So we are just assisting the servants of the servants, the servants of the master of the gopis. And in that way, we can understand, and that way we can appreciate and connect. So these are things which, very, very, the highest has been given to us in a very, very digestible form by Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu through the Sankirtan Yagya, because the Sankirtan Yagya is not different from the Ras Mandal. So we have been given access to that through the Sankirtan movement, and through the Rath Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given access to us to the highest bhav of Vipralambha. So most people outside, they understand the Radha Krishna relationship in terms of Sambhog. But what Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given is the Vipralambha Seva of bringing Krishna back to Vrindavan through the Rath Yatra. So we see that how our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya has given us, based on the basis of all of these scriptures, the highest, topmost understanding. So just wanted to, some reflections on Radhashtami Day. Okay, so now the mantra one we had started discussing last time. So just we'll recite. Ishavasyam idam sarvam yatkinch jagatyam jagat
यत्किञ्च जगत्यां जगत्
tena tyaktena bhunjita
तेन त्यक्तेन
तेन
भुञ्जीता
भुञ्जीत
magrudha kasya siddhanam.
मागृधः
मागधकस्य
तस्य सिद्धनम्.
And so we saw the meaning of this, that everything belongs to Krishna, everything belongs to Supreme Lord Ishvara, and this is, we discussed, is a direct application of the first verse, Om Purnamada Purnamidam, that everything is emanating from the Supreme Lord, so everything is his property. And knowing this, what one should do, one should accept only which has been provided as his or her quota, and should not uh, encroach upon someone else's property, or encroach upon property which has been bestowed on someone else, right? So this is the verse. And we discussed about how money is sweeter than honey, ultimately the resources in this world. So there is a love triangle in this world. There is ईश्वर, जीव एंड प्रकृति के बीच में एक लव ट्रायंगल है. कैसा है? मैं लेट मी सी इफ आई कैन ड्रॉ इट. This is the Ishwar, Jeev, and this is the Prakriti. Okay, so here so the Jiva is after the resources of this material world. Please. So the Jiva is hankering after the resources of this material world. Yes. So as Raman says that we are supposed to love people and use things, but we end up loving things and using people, or using both, using things and people. So in this world, the Jiva is actually after Prakriti. And the Prakriti is after Ishwar. Because the Prakriti is actually ultimately is actually a devotee of Ishwar, whether it is Durga Devi or it is Shrimati Radharani. So here in this material world, Prakriti is the Bahiranga Prakriti, so which is a devotee of Krishna. So the Prakriti is behind Krishna, and the Krishna ultimately loves the Jiva. That there are two birds sitting on the tree. Yes, that analogy from the Mundak Upanishad, I guess, where two birds are sitting. One bird is busy eating the bitter and sweet fruits of happiness and distress in this world, and the other bird is simply watching. Ki when will this turn towards me? So the jiva is always turning towards the sweet bitter fruits of Prakriti. The Prakriti is towards Krishna, and because the Prakriti is frustrated with the jiva, so therefore Devi hi esha gunamai mama maya duratyaya. The Prakriti becomes duratyaya for the living entity. It subjects the living entity to Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adhyatmic kleshas. And then the Jiva, when he gets frustrated in one's attempts to enjoy, then probably after millions of lifetimes, he turns towards Krishna. So Brahmand Brahmite Kona Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Pai Bhakti Lata Beach. So a living entity turns again towards Krishna. So that's the story of the material world. And if you see the connection, when the jiva tries to enjoy the prakriti, what he does is creates karma. है ना? The prakriti is controlled by the Ishwar through kala. And the connection between the jiva and Ishwar, when it is formed through yoga. So actually, these are the 6 topics of all the scriptures, especially the Bhagavad Gita. Yes, the connection between the jiva, Ishwar, and Prakriti, and their interactions.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Can you please
Hare.
repeat the family? That Kala and Yoga.
Yeah, so the Kala, the Prakriti is controlled by the Ishwar through the Kala factor. Because by the Kala Shakti of the Lord, the creation begins. When the Lord glances on Prakriti, so he infuses the Prakriti through Kala, Karma, and Swabhav. So that is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam, but the Kala Shakti is basically, it moves this entire Prakriti. What happens when the sun rises? Then everything springs forth in action. So based on the time factor, everything is impelled to act in this world. So that's the understanding. Okay, so we discussed that how everyone is world after the resources, artha, money, and then we discussed from the Srimad Bhagavatam that how arthasya sadhane siddhe utkarshe rakshane vyay, that how there's so much of hard labor to get wealth. तो ये switch on है क्या? हाँ. Yes, अभी on. Yes, Paresh, do you want to ask something?
प्रभु जी ये कौन सा श्लोक है? अर्थस्य साधने सिद्धे।
ये आप बाद
श्रीमद्
में
भागवत
सर्च कर लीजिए, 11th canto का है.
जी प्रभु जी।
So in this verse, we saw that how at any stage of acquiring resources in this world, to acquire artha in this world, one goes through these 4 experiences: trasa, chinta, brahma, and artha se sadhane siddhe utkarshe rakshane vyaye nasha upabhoga ayasa trasas chinta brahma nirnam. These 3 emotions of trasa, of great struggle, the pavarga parishram, then there is pain, then there is bandhan, then there is bhaya, there is mrityu. So these are the things which happen when one struggles hard for resources in this world, right? So trasa, which means hard struggle; chinta, anxiety of losing what one attains after one's hard struggle; and brahma. So if one has fear of losing, there's anxiety, chinta, and if one gets more, there is Brahma, illusion, that these things will protect me at the time of death. Nothing goes with the jiva. So this is the experience which one gets entangled in pursuit of resources and lording it over the material nature. And objectively, when we try to understand, attainment of wealth is such a probabilistic phenomena that even someone works so hard, and despite one's hard works, one's talent, one's skills, everything, someone is not successful, other person even mediocre intelligence, without much hard work, they strike a fortune, right? So we saw this, how this even chimp was number 22 in terms of investors. त्रास, चिंता एंड भय. भय भय हाँ. Brahma. Okay, and then we saw how actually for this whole pursuit of attaining more and more wealth and control, what has happened is universities have ruined education for wealth, for money. Medical men have ruined healthcare for money. Lawyers have ruined justice for money, and media has ruined truth or information for money. So these are things that we saw, and then relationships get ruined. So when the question, where there's a will, there's a relative. Where there's a will, there's a relative. And there's property disputes. There are so many property disputes that even after the person's departure, for 50 years, property dispute is happening, right? So when Krishna is saying that भैया तुम्हारा है ही नहीं, तुम लड़ किस लिए रहे हो, इसका है, उससे तो पूछा नहीं आपने. So in this verse it is being told ईशावास्यम इदम सर्वम. भाई परम पिता मैं हूँ, पिताहमस्य जगतो माता धाता पितामह. तो इफ यू आर थिंकिंग दैट अरे मेरे दादाजी की प्रॉपर्टी, परदादा जी की प्रॉपर्टी, अरे भैया मैं सबका बाप हूँ. So ultimately, all of this property in this material world, all of these resources are my resources. Don't stake claim over them and don't fight over them. And you use whatever is allocated to you, and that too in the service. And the rest, let them be distributed for the welfare of others. But then what happens in this world? top 1% of the population has 38% of the world's wealth. Top 10% of the population of the world has 76% of the world's wealth. Which means 90% of the population is surviving on 24% of the wealth, and 10% of the population has 76% of the wealth. So this is the kind of wealth inequality or inequity of distribution of resources, and this has increased over the years. This kind of disparity. Now we are talking of progressive democratic governments. जनता की आवाज सुनी जाती है. Government for the people, by the people, of the people. Gone are the days of those despotic monarchic kingdoms जहां पे एक राजा के पास सारा वेल्थ होता था. अभी हमारी सरकार है, हमने अपने वोट से बनाई है. सो क्या हो रहा है? The wealth disparity is increasing. Instead of equitable distribution of resources, there is more disparity, there is more divide between the haves and the have-nots, between the rich and the poor. You see this? That how the disparity has increased over a period of years. पहले आप देखो फिर भी इतना डिवाइड नहीं था. अभी in after the 70s, that is increasing and touching the skies. The divide between the rich and the poor. So would we call this a progressive society, which is caring, which is kind of cooperating with each other? So you can see. So what, as per the Ishopanishad, none of this belongs to us. We are just trustees, we are just caretakers of what is actually belonging to Krishna, the Supreme Lord. So once Srila Prabhupada was taking his morning massage, and devotees brought a life member in Gorakhpur. So this life member had donated quite good amount of wealth, and he was helping the devotees for the various programs. So they brought him, and then Srila Prabhupada said, "Oh, so what do you do?" So he said, "I am a businessman." So Prabhupada asked, "What do you do? What business do you do?" He said, "I have a factory." So what do you manufacture? He said, "I manufacture glass." So he said, Prabhupada said, "Okay, where does glass come from?" He said, "Prabhupada, sand, from silica." So silica comes from sand. So Prabhupada said, "Oh, so you are a thief." And devotees were taken aback कि अरे तो मर्सी दिलाने लाए थे प्रभुपाद के पास. Prabhupada is accusing, no, Prabhupada, he is a very nice person, he helps the temple and all. Prabhupada said, "Okay, so then he's a small thief." But ultimately, we have to acknowledge that we may employ some of our enterprising nature, our intelligence, but even that enterprising nature and intelligence is also given by Krishna only. We can't claim that silica plus my enterprising nature and my intelligence is equal to glass. Even my enterprising nature has been given by Krishna only, and Krishna can anytime take it away. So one, this is a story from UK. A person, a devotee, went to a mall and parked his car outside, and meanwhile a thief broke into his car. He somehow hotwired his car and entered inside, and then started the ignition to steal the car. And devotees have Prabhupada's lectures playing in their cars. So जैसे ही ignition चालू किया, the lecture started playing. And आवाज आया पहले तो Prabhupada का आवाज, how grave Prabhupada's voice is. He became afraid. कहाँ से आवाज आ रहा है? And Prabhupada was saying, "So everyone in this material world is a thief." That was the first opening statement of Prabhupada. Big thief or small thief, everyone is stealing from Krishna. वहीं डर गया. And then he ran away, left the car, and then later became a devotee and came back and told this story. You see that how this understanding that uh, all the resources, artha belongs to Krishna, because ultimately Lakshmi is the consort of Narayan. When one has that understanding, then one will, in a sacred mood, worship Narayan with the help of Lakshmi. Hmm? Whereas if one tries to enjoy Lakshmi separately, that is the Ravana mentality, right? So therefore, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Ishtan bhogan hi vo devo dasyante yagya bhavita ter dattan apradayabhyo yo bhungte stena eva saha. Someone who doesn't offer the resources in yagya to the Supreme Lord and enjoys without offering is stena. Stena means a thief. Yes, stena means thief. So that is yagya shishtasina santo muchyante sarvakilvishai bhunjante te tu agham papa ye pachante atmakarana. That in any kind of enterprise, any kind of profession, however pure we may try to be, but there is always scope for cheating. There is always scope of impure purity in terms of earning of wealth. So therefore, whatever one earns, one has to offer in yagya to the Supreme Lord. And so it is the principle of yagya is not just applicable for food in terms of we offer the food that we eat, but everything yad karoshi, yad asnasi, yad juhosi, yad dadasi, yad tapassasi kaunteya tat kuru mad arpana. That everything that we are doing, we offer it to Krishna. Every result that we get, we first offer it to Krishna. So one devotee took it to another extreme कि प्रभु जी मैं नए जूते लेके आया हूँ, पहले भगवान को ऑफर करो. यार ठीक है, आपका भाव अच्छा है, लेकिन भगवान को ये जूते नहीं चाहिए. But the idea is that whatever we get, we express our gratitude to the Supreme Lord and then engage that thing in the service of the Lord, right? So one devotee was saying that there are two ways of offering. There are two ways of making an offering. So now we understand that everything belongs to Krishna. So it has to be offered to Krishna. It has to be used in service of Krishna. But then there are two ways of making an offering. One way is where we get the result and then offer to Krishna. Another is we offer the work also to Krishna. So the work also is performed for the pleasure of Krishna, not just the result. One is that we do our work as per our psychophysical nature, as per our inclination, and then whatever fruits we get, we offer the fruits to Krishna. Another is the work itself we offer as a offering to Krishna. I am doing this for you, O Supreme Lord. So that is a more advanced, more evolved understanding of yagya. So one thing is that जो हमें क्या खाना है आज, पहले वो डिसाइड करते हैं कि चलो आज क्या बनाएं, क्या क्या खाना है हमें. तो चलो हमें आज बताइए, आप लोग ही बता दो. पूरी भाजी खानी है, चलो पकोड़े खाने, बारिश हो रही है, चलो पकोड़े खाने. तो अभी वो क्या खाना है तो हमने डिसाइड किया, अभी बनाया है तो भाई भगवान को तो ऑफर करना पड़ेगा, नहीं तो फिर इस्कॉन से जुड़े जुड़े हुए हैं हम, चलो भगवान को ऑफर कर देते, फिर खाने तो हमको ही है. So one is we do the work but offer the fruits to Krishna and then enjoy. Another is we offer the work to Krishna कि हम बना भी कृष्ण के लिए and then we happen to just relish Krishna's Mahaprasad. So that is the understanding that activity, every activity that we are doing it for Krishna, and including the fruits and the activity is all offered to Krishna for Krishna's pleasure. So now what happens that if one accumulates and amasses resources and wealth and considers greater wealth as a greater insurance for happiness. If we think that if I have more money, I will have more resources, I'll be more secure, I'll be more happy, I'll be more stable in life. Not necessarily, because wealth also requires a digestion for wealth. Any ability, any kind of opulence, the six opulence, Aishwarasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashashasriya. So to have any sort of opulence, you also need a power to digest that. Otherwise, what happens that, suppose one is strong and powerful, someone has physical, good muscular body, and what happens? One may think that मैं तो किसी से भी पंगा ले सकता हूँ. Then he picks up a quarrel on the fight on the road, and then what happens sometimes in road rage, people kill each other, right? So someone is powerful, strong, but then also one needs to manage that. Someone is beautiful, but then if one doesn't know, then one may be exploited. So any opulence that one has, actually all of these opulences, it's not easy to handle those opulences. इसके लिए उसके ऊपर लेबल होता है handle with care. Because any opulence ultimately only Krishna can handle. Whether it is wealth, whether it is strength, whether it is fame, fame enters people's head, and then they become arrogant, proud, and disconnected. Similarly, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So any opulence, the living entity, the tiny living entity, if one doesn't have the digestion for that, then the same opulence can corrupt the jiva. So same is the case with wealth. And wealth, there are two types of wealth. There is there's Lakshmi, and then there is Chaya Lakshmi. Whom did Ravana abduct? Chaya Sita, right? So the Sita, which Raman thought I have abducted with his evil intentions, wasn't Sita. He could not touch Sita. He could not even actually see Sita. So he abducted Maya Sita or Chaya Sita, right? So the same is the case with Lakshmi. Lakshmi is actually the consort of Narayan, is the wife of Vishnu. But then when someone tries to grasp and grab Lakshmi, well, then one doesn't get wealth. What one gets is Chaya Lakshmi or Maya Lakshmi. And that Chaya Lakshmi, not every money that the money that we have in our bank balance. So first of all, that is not equivalent to the notes in circulation. And those notes in circulation are very much exaggerated to the actual gold. But even the wealth, the money in your bank account, the amount in your bank account, it can be shubh and it can be ashubh. Both ways. There was news of a person buying a new BMW car, and the new BMW car his son took and went on a long drive race, तेज चलाते हुए, and he crashed and died. So he was thinking, we have money, we have purchased a BMW car, but the same BMW car became the cause of the death of his son. So was this money shubh or ashubh? Ashubh. The same Sita, who is the most worshipable mother of the entire universe, Jagat Dhatari, the same Sita, when Ravan cast his evil eye upon her, she transformed in the form of the Chaya Sita, which caused the destruction and burning the whole Lanka. Right? So the wealth that we have, we should know that we may have 500 rupees on our pocket, but उसमें से 400 तो शुभ है, 100 rupees अशुभ है. So better I don't keep this 100 rupees, because this 100 rupees can be disadvantageous, can be dangerous for me. Right? So therefore wealth has to be purified by charity. Right? Because we should know not that every all the money that I have is Shubha. There is Ashubha portion also, right? So, um, and then ultimately, the ambition to just to think that the goal of life is just to increase one's artha, one's prosperity, one's power. What happens is ultimately you lose the peace of mind. There is a story of the 99 Club. You might have heard just there was a king who was always in anxiety. Akbar Birbal ki kahani. So then he was saying, is anyone peaceful in this world? Where is real peace? And then his minister brought him to a farmer, and this farmer was very happy, very peaceful, although living in a very small hut, tattered hut, wearing tattered clothes. His children, his wife, they were a very, very happy family, worshipping the Lord and satisfied. And then the king said, how can someone be so peaceful and satisfied? So I'm very upset at this. How can he be peaceful living in a hut and I am completely anxious living in a palace? So uh, Lord Buddha, Lord Buddha gave up the palace to look for peace. And we Buddhas are leaving the peace to make palace. So anyhow, the minister said, don't worry, we'll see. Within a month, this person will become like you. Oh, really? That will be nice. मैं उसके जैसा नहीं बन सकता तो क्या हुआ उसको मेरे जैसा बना दो. So then the minister left a bag of 99 gold coins outside this hut, and then the farmer opened his door next day morning and he saw this pouch of gold coins and he brought this inside. Oh, Lord has answered our prayers that we have received some thing to make ends meet. They opened the bag and they started counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 91, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99. 99 ही कैसे हो सकता है? भगवान ने दिया है तो 100 होना चाहिए. तो वापस से गिनते हैं, बच्चे गिनते हैं, वाइफ गिनते हैं, सब गिनते हैं 99 ही है. We must get that 100th gold coin. And then he says we have to work hard to get that 100. We have to make it complete. Om Purna Madam Purnam. It has to become complete 100. So then he starts working hard, saving money. 100 गोल्ड कॉइन लेके आना है हमको. एंड देन बच्चों को भी मारने लगता है कि तुम भी काम करो. ये वाइफ, देयर आर quarrels between the husband and wife. And then the minister brings the king. You see now, अरे हाँ ये तो मेरा जैसा हो गया है. So basically the thing is that not every all the wealth that is there is Shubha. Therefore the concept is Shubha Lav. You have seen outside homes it is written. Ever thought why? We want love, we want profit, prosperity, but Shubha Lav, which is auspicious for our spiritual growth and evolution of our consciousness. Right? So that's the understanding of Shubha Lav. And Srila Prabhupada in the purport says that this wealth is such a contentious issue that the capitalists, they conquered the world by their schemes. East India Company and the capitalists, by industrialization, they expanded their hegemony and they exploited the workers and the laborers and the slaves. And so then they rebelled and created something called communism. Right? So capitalism and communism, and then Russia and the United States are still fighting over the vestiges of capitalism and communism, right? So, but Prabhupada in the purport he's saying both of these ideas, all of these different types of isms, they are what do we say? Incomplete, and they are unable to solve the problems of the human society. and then the human becomes like animals. The survival of the fittest is a law of the jungle, but then the human being is applying that survival of the fittest to the human society, where the human society survival is guaranteed. The human being doesn't need to work hard for survival. The human needs are easily satisfied. If you see an animal, it has to go and eat and hunt or eat. The whole day they are chasing food. But for the human, even though there's a big feast, even though we had contemplation, सुबह से भूख लग रही है, सर दर्द हो रहा है, पित्त बढ़ रहा है, लेकिन once the plate comes in front of you, और इतना 1 घंटा लग गया लाइन में, but once the plate comes, within 20 minutes खत्म, right? Our human needs of eating, sleeping, mating, defending, they are just satisfied in a short time. What do we do with the rest of the day? Yes. So then there are artificial needs created. Our wants then become our needs. So food is a want or a need. Food is a need, right? Sleep is a want or a need. Need. Phone is a want or a need. Are you sure? Huh?
Want.
We can stop the feeding the body, but we can't stop the feed on Instagram, right? So actually, it is a need. We become anxious not for food but for feed. कि अरे वाईफाई नहीं चल रहा है यार, मेरे को मैसेज नहीं आया, क्या मैसेज आया पता नहीं लग रहा, right? So it has become a need. So what are the actual need of a human being are very less. But then we are artificially creating more and more needs by transforming the wants into needs. And then therefore we are busy the whole day. Whereas if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, all the devotees of Bengal 4 महीना सब छोड़ के जाते हैं, रथ यात्रा के लिए जा रहे हैं. आजकल कोई देगा आपको 4 महीने का लीव? एवरीवन चलो रथ यात्रा जाएंगे महाप्रभु के साथ. मतलब देयर इज नो एंजाइटी कि घर कैसे चलेगा, अरे उसमें क्या है, तो बड़ी बात है ही नहीं. Because there was no artificial wants converted into needs. So of course we cannot go back there so easily. The karma will haunt us, but we have to at least theoretically understand and appreciate. So that's how the human society struggles and suffers by fighting with each other for artificial needs, which are actually not our needs in the first place also. Then trade tariffs, tariff wars, ये सब चल रहा है over products which we don't even need, right? So the Srimad Bhagavatam, it gives the formula that धर्मस्य हि अपवर्गस्य नार्थो अर्थाय कल्पते नार्थस्य धर्मैकान्तस्य कामो लाभाय हि स्मृतः. So dharma, artha, kama, moksha, these are the 4 purusharthas. When you say purushartha, पुरुषार्थ मतलब क्या होता है? पुरुषार्थ नहीं, पुरुषार्थ मतलब something for which you endeavor, a purpose for which you will endeavor, something which motivates you to work. So इतने बड़े मोटिवेशन, सब बहुत सारे मोटिवेशनल स्पीकर्स भरे मार्केट में, राइट? But if you think about the concept of motivation, the Vedic scriptures are all motivating. They are giving the motivational tips and tools. They are saying motivation 4 चीजों से मिलता है लाइफ में. Did I discuss this? No. So there are only 4 things which motivate. Of course, there is a 5th thing which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given. What are the 4 things? Dharma, artha, kama and moksha. So these are the only 4 motivators. The most popular is calm, right? The most popular motivator is pleasure. all the animals, all the lower species of life, they are after pleasure. That's the predominant motivator in this material world. Where is pleasure? Where is pleasure? Different forms of pleasure. But then a little evolved from that motivation is the motivation of, so काम से higher है अर्थ. So you have a dog, वो उसको खाने को मिल रहा है, लेकिन उसको अपने गली का शेर बनना है. Right? Now he is getting fed by the people, the dog lovers, खिला रहे हैं उसको, बट उसको उससे शांति नहीं है. उसको उसके गली में और कोई कुत्ता आगे खाए वो बर्दाश्त नहीं है. So his pleasure needs are fulfilled, but then he doesn't want someone else's pleasure needs to be fulfilled. He wants to be the king of his territory. So therefore, काम से ऊपर है अर्थ, power and control. So that is basically prosperity, power, control. So pleasure, prosperity. Then, so these are the lower forms of motivation. If you go higher, there is dharma, which is piety, where you see that, okay, I have a desire for pleasure, but my pleasure should not become an impediment and obstacle for someone else's pleasure. So then society में कुछ codes होने चाहिए, ट्रैफिक के लॉज होने चाहिए. हाँ, मुझे भी ऑफिस पहुंचना है, तुम्हें भी ऑफिस पहुंचना है, या फिर तुम्हें भी डिस्को जाना है, मुझे भी डिस्को जाना है, लेकिन थोड़ा कोऑपरेट करते हैं. मैं भी फॉलो करता हूँ नियम, आप भी फॉलो करो, ताकि हम दोनों सेंस ग्रेटिफिकेशन करने सही टाइम पे पहुंच जाए. राइट? सो देन देयर इज पाइटी, लेट्स वर्क टुगेदर. और इन द रिफाइंड फॉर्म, पाइटी कुड बी charity, philanthropy, or other forms of pious work, digging wells, distributing food, and things like that. And then there is moksha, which is spiritual perfection, desire for spiritual perfection. So these are the 4 purusharthas, and Srimad Bhagavatam gives the place for each purushartha, that what is the relative importance of each purushartha in our life. So in general, when you see dharma, artha, kama, moksha, so kama has to be, calm means desire for one's own pleasure, has to be balanced, counterbalanced by dharma. Right? Okay, my pleasure, my happiness is important, but then my neighbor's happiness, my family member's happiness, my society's happiness is also important. Right? So that civic sense, or that sense of cooperation is, so dharma and calm, they go together. If a society is only after calm, after hedonistic pleasure, then it becomes chaos. And similarly, artha and moksha, they balance each other. When someone gets power but doesn't have spiritual direction, then one will definitely misuse that power. And therefore, kings of the past always had saintly ministers. Dashrath Maharaj had Vashishta Rishi. And every king you will see would have a saintly minister. For example, Chandragupta had Chanakya. Someone who is detached from power, but at the same time has spiritual vision, so that they can temper that power and direct it in the right direction. So therefore, you have Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, Shatrughna, and there is this famous story that Ram, Bharat, Lakshman, Shatrughna were kept in that order in the cradle, and all 4 were crying. फिर क्या किया? भरत को शत्रुघ्न के पास और लक्ष्मण को राम के पास रखा. All 4 started smiling and they were happy. And why was this? Because all of them, they represent dharma, artha, kama, moksha. So Lord Ram is the Maryada Purushottam. He is the dharma, supreme, the master of all dharma, creator of dharma. So dharma and no, he's actually, he represents moksha. Lord Ram represents moksha, and Lakshmana represents Lakshmi. Lakshmana, Lakshmi Sampanna. So moksha and artha together, and dharma. Bharat Maharaj represents dharma. Dharma and kama, Shatrughna. When they were together, then everyone was happy. So basically, the relative thing is that when we are in pursuing wealth, in pursuit of wealth, there should also be investment. Whether we are investing materially for material growth, we should also invest for our spiritual growth. Otherwise, that material growth can blind one. And similarly, when one is pursuing one's own pleasure, one should also think about the well-being of others. So, kama and dharma, they go together. So, Srimad Bhagavatam says, dharma, artha, kama, moksha, dharma should be geared towards apavarga. So, the purpose of dharma is ultimately to bring you to liberation. And uh, and artha should not be used for any other purpose other than dharma, for dharmic purposes. And kama, satisfaction of and artha should not be used for just satisfaction of the senses, and kama is not for satisfying the senses, but kama is so that you can have a healthy and happy body and mind. So in that healthy and happy body mind you can practice dharma. So that is the whole connection which Srimad Bhagavatam gives. And ultimately, Vrindavan is the place yatra naisarga durvaira sahasan mrigadaya mitrani iva ajita vasa dhrutrut tarshakadikam. So this kind of synergy between all living entities where we share the resources rather than fighting over the resources, survival of the fittest, how there can be such cooperation, that can happen only in Vrindavan, because the understanding is Mitrani Iva. Everyone lives together as a friend, because Ajita Avasa. Because this world is a home of Krishna. So Vrajavasi is, they all think that this is Krishna's home. And when they see everything in connection with Krishna, so then there is no conflict, there is no quarrel, there is only cooperation. So an ultimate human society where there is brotherhood, it can be only based when there is common father, the presence of the father, which is Lord Krishna. Yes. Artha and moksha, basically when you have power. Artha means you have power to control. Power can blind one. People become arrogant with power. So when you have power, you also need spiritual vision. Dhritarashtra and Duryodhan, they were after power. And in the pursuit of power, they became blind. Right? They didn't uh, pay heed to any good advice of spiritually advanced people like Vyasdev or Vidura. So this, for if a person has power but doesn't listen to spiritual guidance, then one will ruin one's own future. Because only Krishna can handle the opulences that we discussed, right? Hmm. Nahin, like in this commentary, I think Shri Vaishnava's commentary इसमें Lakshman represents Artha, Lakshmana Lakshmi Sampanna, and Lord Ram, he is the ultimate provider of moksha, because in Varanasi, in Kashi, Lord Shiva comes and chants Ram Nam. Anyone who dies in Kashi is liberated, and Ram Nam is chanted in his ear. Actually, ultimately, Lord Ram only can give moksha, right? Who else can give moksha other than Mukunda? So he is the giver of moksha. Of course, Lord Ram is a vigraha of all four purusharthas, not just dharma, artha, kama, moksha. All four purusharthas are actually emanating from the Lord only. Yes. Okay, so the last part of the purport, Prabhupada talks about when we are talking, we have
Krishna
been,
Prabhu.
yes, Prabhu.
Prabhuji, you said the purpose of dharma is for apavarga, and
Hmm.
artha should be used for dharma, not for the sake of satisfaction of indriyas. And kama moksha. Can you repeat?
Kama,
Kama and moksha. I
yeah,
missed
so,
that.
yeah, so basically, so arthasya dharmaikantasya. So artha should be used for dharmic activities. Kamo labhaya hi smita. Like one should not use artha recklessly for fulfilling one's sensual desires. And kama, the understanding of kama is that what should one desire? One should desire to keep one's body and mind together, body and soul together, and live a comfortable life, not a reckless luxury life of luxury, but a comfortable life so that one can practice dharma. So kamasya na indriya priti. Kama is not meant for indriya priti. So jivasya tattva jigyasa. The ultimate goal of the jiva as living entity is to inquire about the absolute truth. Tattva jigyasa. So that should be the goal of all one's activities. In the last part of this purport, Srila Prabhupada is talking about that in this world you have ahastani sahastanam apadani chatushpadam. Bhagavatam says that uh, that jivo jivasya jivanam. You see that there are predators, carnivores who feed on herbivores, and herbivores they feed on the plants, and so therefore life gives life. So in this world, any living form has to depend on some other living form for survival. Right? No one can live with on chemicals. So therefore, some amount of violence is there, right? But the understanding that we are not we are not proponents of vegetarianism only. Our vegetarianism has a basis that this is the only food which we can offer to Krishna is patram pushpam phalam, and therefore we will eat only what Krishna accepts. So we offer Krishna the nice sattvic food, and then we honor the prasadam. So our logic or basis behind, so then because there's no end to it, and when people talk of vegetarianism, then they will eliminate milk, because violence, if you are in a uh, in a utopian idea that whatever I am eating there will be no violence, is not possible. Whatever we eat, there will be some violence, and therefore the only way out is to offer food to Krishna. When we offer food to Krishna, then we are absolved of the sin which is there in the food, right? So Srila Prabhupada's purport ends with this thing of Patram Pushpam Phalam. Yeah, just for reference, I'm sharing that this verse Ishavasyam, a similar verse, almost similar verse is there in the Srimad Bhagavatam 8th canto, where Swayambhu Manu is chanting this mantra. And actually, this Ishopanishad is also prayer by Swayambhu Manu. So you see that Bhagavatam and Ishopanishad, they are having the same verse. Atma Vasyam Idam Sarvam and Ishavasyam Idam Sarvam. Yeah, so here iti mantropanishadam vyaharantam samahitam drashtva sura yatudana. So it is mentioned in the Bhagavatam. This was the mantra which Swayambhu Manu was chanting. What was the mantra? He was chanting Atma Vasyam Idam Vishwam. So this is the mantra 1 of Ishopanishad. Right? So you see Bhagavatam and Ishopanishad, they are having the same description. Okay, so this is the whole purport summary. Prabhupada begins with glory of Vedic knowledge. Vedic knowledge is infallible, and Lord is not controlled by laws of nature. He's the proprietor of everything, and because he's the proprietor, he is all the potencies, and knowing God is having everything belongs to him. One should just take one's own quota. And when one doesn't acknowledge God's proprietorship, then one struggles and there's conflict for proprietorship between communists and capitalists. So if we want peace in the human society, we have to follow not all of these isms, but the Ishopanishad principle. And then Prabhupada talks of human diet, and he says animals also follow the laws of nature, and becoming vegetarian is not enough. The real definition of sin is not acknowledging the ultimate laws of God. That's the ultimate sin. So overall, it all begins with the vision. The vision, the scriptures, they help correct our vision. Between piety and sin, the differentiating factor is the vision. So the vision given here is that everything belongs to Krishna, everything is connected to Krishna. So when we see things separate from the Lord, then there is conflict, then there is struggle, then there is enmity, then there is mamaka pandavas chaiva. ये मेरे बच्चे हैं, ये पांडु के बच्चे हैं. So there should be yuddha between them for the scarcity of resources. उनको 5 गांव भी नहीं दे सकता. You see where the entire Kurukshetra verse was a fallout of not understanding Ishavasya principle, and crores of people have to die, right? Between Ukraine and Russia, इतना सब drama चल रहा है. Why? Ishavasya principle is not understood. So the principle is we will have synergy with the people around us, we will have synergy with nature, we will have synergy with ourselves if we see everything in connection with Krishna. When we see that each and every person around me is a pancha of Krishna, every object belongs to Krishna, then there will be no conflict, there will be no conflict of interest, but there will be synergy. So that's the sum and substance of this verse, the first verse. Okay, so we'll quickly move to the second verse. So everything belongs to the Ishwar. The mantra 1, mantra 2 is when we live in harmony with this principle, then what happens? And mantra 3 is when we do not live in harmony with this principle, then what happens? The harm that happens. Kurvaneveha karmani जिजीवेशे क्षतां समा एवं त्वयि नान्यथेतोऽस्ति
एवं तैः नान्यथेस्तोऽस्ति
न कर्म लिप्यते नरे.
लिप्यते नरे.
So this verse, it says that जिजीविषेत, जीवेत मतलब जीना, living. जिजीविषेत, जब भी ऐसा 2 बार पहला इसको रिपीट किया जाता है, इसमें the meaning is the desire for living. जैसे जिज्ञासु, जानने की ललक, the desire to know, जिज्ञासु. जिजीविषेत, the desire to live. Bubhukshu, bhukshu means, bhuksha means khana, bubhukshu means the desire to eat. So जिजीविषेत, आप जीना चाहते हो, जुग जुग जियो, किसने मना किया है? शताम समा, हजारों सैकड़ों सालों तक जियो, कंटिन्यूसली, नो प्रॉब्लम. बट हाउ? कुर्वन कर्माणि इह, इफ यू वर्क इन दिस वे. विच वे? ईशावास्यम इदम सर्वम. जब आप ईश्वर के आधिपत्य को देखते हुए, देन यू इंटरैक्ट विद द वर्ल्ड अराउंड यू, विद द प्रकृति, विद द जीवा, with everyone, everything. You interact based on Ishavasya principle, then you continue living, no problem. No one will have any problem with you, and you will not have any problem with others. You will be Ajata Shatru. And that sort of work, na lipyate, will not bind you to the laws of karma. अस्ति न अन्यथा इतः नरे, इसके अलावा और कोई ऑल्टरनेटिव नहीं है. मतलब there is no other alternative, there is no other way, no other way, no other way. The only way to live in this world is ईशावास्य प्रिंसिपल. इसके अलावा कोई रास्ता नहीं है. समझ में आई बात? नहीं आई? समझ लो, ऐसा बोल रहे हैं. There is no other way. तो कोई, this is like someone saying कि ये to go to the second floor or the fourth floor or the 10th floor, यहाँ पे एक लिफ्ट है, इससे आप आ जाओ. एंड या फिर to come from the 10th floor to the ground floor, you come to the lift, all the stairs, ऐसे आ जाओ. और कोई रास्ता नहीं है? नहीं ना, और कोई रास्ता नहीं. अरे कैसे कोई रास्ता नहीं है? मैं ऊपर से कूद के भी आ सकता हूँ. You can jump, can try, हड्डियां टूट जाएंगी. तो ईशोपनिषद is saying जीने का एक ही तरीका है, which ईशावास्य principle. You can live happily in this world only in one way. There's only one way to see Lord as, to see everything in connection with Krishna, and then to interact with everything and everyone based on that Krishna connection. Otherwise, we get all entangled. Whether it is wealth, whether it is people, everything, whether it is food, everything in this world has entangling potency to a lesser or a greater degree. And if we don't see the connection of Krishna, we will get entangled in those things. So the Ishopanishad is recommending that, by you want to live a happy life, healthy life, this is the way. And now the scientists, they are saying that with science we will stop death. So there are branches of science such as epigenetics, which are saying that we have found out the cause of death. We have found out the cause of death is old age, and we have found out the cause of old age is reduction of the telomeres, which is the tail of the DNA strand. Basically technical ये चीज है, but they say that you have the DNA chromosomes, and those chromosomes like strands of DNA, and at the end of those strands there are tails. मतलब जो ढक्कन है, बेसिकली बॉटल के ढक्कन है, तो ढक्कन खुल जाता है तो वाइटलिटी निकल जाती है फ्रॉम आवर सेल्स. सो अगर हमारे the tails of the DNA, if they are strong and healthy, then there will be no aging. So they are saying that in next 30-40 years, old age will become, like death will become optional. मतलब ऐसा बिंदास क्लेम कर लेते हैं, we'll make death optional. Death is old age is one of the diseases. Actually, we can cure old age also. We can reverse old age by our genetic science. And then people are embalming and preserving their bodies with the hope that someday, when science will become so advanced, we can be revived by anti-aging processes. So yes, want to live long, want to live forever. But you know what? With all of this science, you ask people, they are so frustrated with this life, they want to commit suicide. और बोले ये 20 साल 25 साल ही नहीं मुझसे झेले जा रहे हैं. You are giving me eternal life in this material body, in this miserable body. But Ishopanishad is saying that no worries. You can, if you want, you can live hundreds of years, but if you live based on the Ishavasya principle, if you live on that principle, then even genetic science वाले को भी Nobel Prize दे देंगे. You give
Prabhuji,
long life to people, but then first teach the Ishavasya principle.
प्रभुजी,
हाँ,
ये आपने क्या टर्म यूज किया? ईशावासी,
ईशावास्य,
ईशावास्य प्रिंसिपल. ओके,
ईशावास्यम idam sarvam. So therefore it is called the Ishavasya principle.
ईशावास्य. ओके, थैंक यू
Everything belongs to
प्रभुजी.
Krishna. So you have all heard the story of sculptor, very nice sculptor, very skilled sculptor, who was getting old and he realized, I'm going to die. So he thought, let me trick death. जब यमदूत आएंगे मैं उनको टोपी पहना दूंगा. दिख रहा ना टोपी? So I'll trick death. How? So he created 7 identical statues of himself. तो जब आएंगे यमदूत तो पहचान ही नहीं पाएंगे मैं कौन हूँ. मैं भी ऐसे बुद्ध के जैसे बैठ जाऊंगा, ये भी बैठे हैं, तो how will they recognize that who's who? So he said, chalo, he made very identical 7 sculptures of himself, and then when यमदूता came at the time of death, they were scratching their head, किसको उठाना है इधर, एड्रेस तो सही है लेकिन यहाँ पे तो 8 लोग हैं. So then one of them understood the trick. He said, है इसमें से ही एक है. So then he went to one and he said, इसका नाक ठीक से नहीं बनाया इसने, देखो इसका नाक अलग है और इसका कान ज्यादा, ये वाला कान ज्यादा लंबा है. He started finding faults in each of those sculptures, and then इस sculptor से रहा नहीं गया, गलत बता रहे हो, ये ऐसा सही है, इसमें मैंने ऐसा बनाया है, बराबर है, एवरीथिंग इज परफेक्ट, चल बेटा आ जा. So why did he die? Because the ego had not died. Because the real death is not of the body. Body is anyways dead. Is it not? The body is anyways dead matter. Yes. So it is the cause of death is not matter. The cause of death is not that the body is getting old. The cause of death is the ego is not dying. Therefore, we have to punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jatare shayanam. Iha samsare bahudustare कृपया पारे ताहि मुरारे. Right? Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhaja Mudamate. So the cause of death is not that, okay, because there is some problem with this material body, we will fix those problems, we will fix those gaps in that ice cube and it will stop melting. That's not the problem. The problem is not this material body, the problem is ego. The cycle of birth and death is not because of a design issue in this body. The cycle of birth and death is because of the false ego. So what the Srimad Bhagavatam, the Ishopanishad, the Bhagavad Gita, they are proposing to us is, if you want to really stop death, then how you can do that? By working on your ego. And the real identity is, I belong to Krishna, everything belongs to Krishna. So when you transfer the ego that I belong to Krishna, rather than everything belongs to me, to I belong to Krishna, then automatically the cycle of birth and death stops. So these false identities we create, there are these 5 forms of ignorance, avidya. And these 5 forms of ignorance or avidya create the false identities in this world. And based on these 5 identities in this world, we experience the miseries of old age, disease and death. So in this, when you, these are these 5 forms of avidya. Avidya, raga, dvesh, abhinivesh. Avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh and abhinivesh. These are the 5 forms of avidya or ignorance. So the first thing is avidya. Avidya means darkness or ignorance. So when you enter a cinema hall, क्या होता है? First thing is it is dark. Because when there is darkness, then they can superimpose a fictitious reality upon you. So it begins with darkness. And when you enter the darkness, then a illusory glitter and glamour is superimposed on the screen, which actually doesn't have any existence. It is just lights which are dancing. But then you start connecting and identifying with those forms of lights and sound, right? And then start laughing, and you are having fun when the hero is having fun, right? And then start crying. So avidya is darkness. Darkness में सबसे पहले light impose किया तो क्या आ गया? अस्मिता. Create a certain अस्मिता means identity. That you make a sense of relationship. You start identifying with the hero. And for ourselves, we think I am the hero of my movie. So all of us are producing, directing one movie. इसमें hero हम ही हैं, right? So we identify with this material body, which is a fictitious creation of material energy, and then anything happens to this body, anything happens to this identity, we laugh and cry. राग and द्वेष. So पहले हम एक identity बनाते हैं, right? अस्मिता. और उस आइडेंटिटी बनने के बाद में क्या होता है? राग और द्वेष. कभी हंसे, कभी रोए, कभी खुशी, कभी गम, right? And so this is the movie of material existence, which ultimately ends with rag dvesh abhinivesh. Abhinivesh means termination, death. So the way to stop this whole cycle of birth and death is to change the connection, the relationship with this world. So the whole proposition is that we see everything and everyone in connection with Krishna. So suppose if you have an apple, आपको भूख लग रही है, लेकिन इस रूम में ही एप्पल है, आपको पता कब लगेगा? जब लाइट चालू होगी, राइट? Without light, you can't see the apple. But if I say, why is the light coming in between me and the apple? If someone says, why is the light coming in between the me and the apple? Actually, light is helping you connect with the apple. So if we want to connect with anything or anyone in an enlightened way, that is only possible with Krishna as the common connection. If you have two pen drives, if you have to transfer data from one pen drive to another, what do you need to do? Connect to the laptop. So therefore, macchitta madgata prana bodhayanta paraspara kathayantasya mam nityam tushyanti ramanti cha. If two souls have to connect and have tushyanti and ramanti experience of satisfaction and joy, there has to be the common connection of Krishna. So when we connect with each other with Krishna as a common center, when we connect with the resources of this world with Krishna as the link, then our relationship is synergistic. Then avidya, asmita, raga, dvesh, abhinivesh do not happen. Right? So this is what this verse is proposing. But if we don't do so, then we get entangled in the karmic cycle. So the karma bank, the bank of karma.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, please can you repeat this 5 forms of avidya?
Avidya, asmita, rag, dvesh, abhinivesh. Avidya means
Abhinivesh.
abhinivesh.
Okay.
Avidya, which means ignorance. Asmita means false identification. Raga means attachment. Dvesha means aversion. Abhinivesh means destruction. Okay, so basically this verse we read, it said, just show you, that for that sort of work will not bind him to the law of karma. When we see the connection of Krishna with anything and everything, then we are not entangled by that interaction. But if we don't see the Krishna connection, then what happens? Then every interaction in this world imperceptibly binds us with the law of karma. So every interaction that we have, we open a karmic bank account. Say suppose you meet a person, say sabji wala hai. From a sabji wala to a thela wala to your boss in the office, to your spouse, to your children, your siblings, anyone in this world. Every interaction is a potential. With everyone we meet in this world, we open a karmic bank account. And then we invest and withdraw, right? Whether there is credit or debit, both are effectively entanglement, which will guarantee us a next birth in this material world. Whether there is credit or debit, किसी के साथ credit है, किसी के साथ debit है, but both are cumulatively guaranteeing that we'll take another birth in this material world. So what Ishopanishad is proposing, that you interact with this world in such a way that आपका bank account clean है, zero balance, trial balance zero. You don't have any entanglement in this world. So we see in this in Chanakya Pandit, he says that ऋण कर्ता पिता शत्रु माता च व्यभिचारिणी भार्या रूपवती शत्रु पुत्र शत्रु अपंडितः. That you look around, यही मेरा भाई क्यों है? From the billions of souls in this world, ये व्यक्ति ही मेरा भाई या बहन क्यों है? यही मेरे पिता माता क्यों हुए? यही मेरे पति पत्नी क्यों हुए? यही सोल मेरा बच्चा क्यों आया? राइट? के पीछे लॉजिक क्या है? There is a karmic debt involved, and if there is a bad debt, so Chanakya Pandit says ऋण कर्ता पिता शत्रु, that in the past life you may have some enemy जो आपके like, and then that enemy wanted to take a revenge on you, so he came as a father, and a father who was under a lot of loans, and he died with all of those loans. So you inherit those loans. तो मतलब आपसे पैसा वसूली पिछले जन्म में करनी थी, अभी आके कर रहे हैं. ऋण करता पिता शत्रु माता च व्यभिचारिणी, and a mother who is not having good character or having loose character, so that is considered as maybe an enemy of previous life. Bharya Rupavati Shatru, interesting, if the person has a beautiful wife, then probably she is an enemy, because if she is beautiful, then there will be many suitors, and then you have to be on guard. So basically Chanakya Pandit says that as per your power to protect, desire of wife. If you don't have the power to protect her, but you have a very beautiful wife, then you will always be in anxiety, right? So aisa. And then putra shatru apanditah. If you have children who are apandita, means very fickle minded, who don't value the wealth and property and the resources which the father is giving, mother is giving, then they are enemies of the past life. Because even though someone may have created a big empire, but the children won't take much time to actually spoil the whole thing. So basically, the relationships that we have in this life, they are carryovers from our previous life. From previous life, we had certain interactions with the world, with the people around us, credit debit interactions, entangled in karma, and then they come back as positive or negative relationships in this life. So Ishopanishad is giving us the way by which we can have interactions, we can have relationships without creating karmic bank accounts. So that's the idea which is proposed here. When we see things in connection with Krishna, and then Prabhupada often quotes this story that there is once a saint, very realized saint, and with his disciple he's going for he's wandering, and then on that day they come across 4 different people. First of all, they come across a prince who is very rich, very opulent, who's having all the luxuries, and he's enjoying life with a lot of women and then wealth and wine, all of those things. So then the saintly person saw him, he gave him the blessing, Jivo, Sada Jiva, that you always live. Good blessing for him. And then he came across uh, a sannyasi. Then he came across a brahmachari who was always studying, doing austerities, penances, swadhyaya, tapasya. So then he told him uh, that आपकी मृत्यु शीघ्र हो, that you may die soon. So this disciple was confused. पहले को मिले, एक प्रिंस को मिले, उसको बोले सदा जीव, आप सदा जीते रहो. ये दूसरे को मिल रहे हो, and who is performing austerities, and you are telling him you die soon. And then they went ahead, and he saw a butcher who was killing animals. And to this butcher, he said, you neither live nor die. Then the disciple got more confused. कि क्या चल रहा है, सबको अलग अलग benediction दे रहे हैं. Finally, they came across a sannyasi who was a very realized soul. And then the saint told him, Jivova Marova. Whether you live or die doesn't make any difference. So then the disciple could not stop himself. He asked him, Ki, you gave all these four people four different benedictions. What's the reason? So he said, whom did we meet first? We met the prince. Now the prince, he is recklessly enjoying life with wealth, women, wine, all the resources. Now in this life, he has, based on his pious activities in the past, he has got all of these facilities. So he's enjoying now. But then he's creating a lot of entanglement. And as soon as he dies, he will have to suffer for all of those reactions. So therefore, I am giving him the boon, Sada Jiva, let you live. To live, because once you die, then your bad time will begin. You have to suffer all the reactions of your sinful activities in this life. So therefore, I gave that benediction. The next person, the brahmachari, he said, why did I tell him to die soon? Because he is not committing any sin. He is performing all these pious, austerities and penances, and he is living a tough life. He is not interested in this material world. So better for him, if he dies soon, then he will attain moksha. So therefore, I am telling him, you die. And the third person, the butcher, and for that butcher, I was confused because this person living, he is making all of the animals suffer, and after he dies, he will suffer like those animals. So I am saying, I am giving him the boon, neither you live nor you die, because your life is suffering for others, your death is suffering for yourself. So neither live nor die. And the fourth person, the saint, whether he lives or dies, he is always chanting the names of the Lord, and wherever he goes, he is preaching the glories of the Lord. So whether he goes to heaven or hell or to Vaikuntha, his business remains the same. So Jivova Marova, doesn't make any difference. So that's the understanding which ultimately Srila Prabhupada is bringing us to, that devotional service, whether in life or in death, a devotee is not fearful of death, because one sees that death is just another chapter of opportunity to serve Krishna in a different way. So these are some of the points for discussion on this verse, and we'll continue the next session. Okay. Any thoughts, questions, reflections? $100%? Acha, to follow this in one's life. No, but this verse says there's no other way. This is the only way. So Prabhupada, one devotee said, Prabhupada, spiritual life is so difficult. Prabhupada said, material life is impossible. Actually, it is impossible. We are actually comparing spiritual life with material life, but material life means going deep down in darkness and in entanglement. And spiritual life is the only way to unwind from the bondage. Only way to be happy, actually. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so so we see the things are relative. These when it comes to transaction, like realities of this world, it is based on practical ground realities. There cannot be one size fit all rule for everything. Now, overall, there are codes of dharma, but in dharma also there are lesser laws and higher laws. So, truthfulness is a law, honesty is a principle, is a law, but then compassion is a higher principle. Sometimes truthfulness can be compromised on the altar of compassion. Right? In fact, Lord Buddha, when he saw that all the animals are being slaughtered in the name of Vedas, he said, and disavow the Vedas, like do away with the Vedas, right? Because ultimately compassion on living entities is being compromised in the name of falsely using the Vedas. So there are higher principles and lower principles, and it takes maturity to see which is the higher principle in a certain situation, which is the lower principle. But ultimately, any relationship can work only in the condition that we see the common Krishna connection. Otherwise, as Radha Maharaj once said in the class, that in this material world, relationship of this world, either we will leave them, or they will leave us, or even we don't leave, then time will separate us. The relationship in this world we are talking of breaking away, and time is anyways going to break away the relationship. But for a relationship to be immortalized, to be eternalized, there's only one way. When we bring Krishna in between, then only that relationship is beyond karma. That relationship, even beyond this life, you can have an eternal bonding, right? So that is only possible with Krishna connection. Other than Krishna connection, whether to continue with a relationship which you are finding suffocating or difficult or not will depend on a number of principles, on certain codes of dharma. In some cases, breaking away uh, may not be recommended. Some cases it may be, depending on what's the situation. Yes. Okay. Someone online has a question.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Then.
Hare Krishna.
Am I audible, Prabhuji?
Yes.
Prabhuji, regarding that Tena Taktena Bunjita, so we are supposed to enjoy that only that is in our kocha, no? So in cases like we have to share room with in hostel or something, we have to be with our friends, in colleagues, in duties. So there are certain things like we have to share their things and they have to share our things, like it goes on vice versa. So in that case, we can't tell, oh, this is the principle, you shouldn't use mine and I shouldn't use yours, like that. So that becomes a little awkward situation. So to what extent we are supposed to follow that approach?
Okay. So she has a question. If anyone wants to leave, you can, because the class is over. So Sabrina Mataji from Nepal, she's asking a question that, say, suppose in student life, you are staying in a interesting question. You're staying in a hostel room, and you're sharing with one or two other people, and probably they don't understand the Ishavasyan principle. They pick up your things and use them. So uh, how to deal and navigate. Sometimes you end up using their thing. So anyway, I just got reminded of the quarrel of a lifetime between Devyani and Sarmishta for such a trivial small thing. Ishavasyan principle, how it can blow into such proportions that both of these girls, they spoiled their entire life for one small incident where by mistake Sarmishta picked up Devyani's clothes in a situation of urgency where Lord Shiva and Parvati were passing by, and all of these girls were giggling and laughing and as if they were the best of friends, the perfect picture perfect friendship on social media. She is the daughter of the king and this is the daughter of the guru of the king, and both of them are giggling, laughing as if they are the best of friends, but without the Ishavasya principle. And when there is the moment the adversity strikes, such relationships of convenience, within moments they actually crumble. The moment, what was the moment? That in that moment, in that haste, Sharmishta picked up Devyani's clothes and put on. It was not consciously done, it was unconsciously done, and then Devyani became so outraged that I am from higher caste. I am the daughter of your father's guru. How can you take my clothes? And you are like a crow who has spoiled the butter which is meant for यज्ञ to Vishnu. विष्णु बोलते हैं मुझे क्यों बीच में ईशावास्य प्रिंसिपल यूज करने के बजाय मुझे यूज कर रहे हैं, right, to keep your status high. So anyhow, then what happened after that? So पंगा लेते हैं ना लोग without knowing what their power actually is. So opulences are very difficult and dangerous to handle. So Sarmishta, you are accusing me. Who do you think you are? She picked her up out there. I am the daughter of a Shatrani. I have the fighting spirit. She picked her up and threw her in a well. So much so for her great high birth. As a Brahmini, she was thrown in that deep dark well. And then this king Yati comes by, he saves Devyani, picks her out of the well, and then she proposes to him. And then, but then she keeps a condition in front of Shukracharya that that when I marry Yayati, then Sarmishta should come as a maid servant. अभी इसकी क्या जरूरत थी, है ना? नहीं मतलब ठीक है ना, हो गया ना, आप दोनों का लड़ाई हुआ, आपने उसे कुछ अपशब्द कहा, उसने आपको फेंक दिया, अभी तुमको इतना अच्छा वर मिल गया है, be happy and peaceful in your life, you are getting married to a big king. No, I will take revenge. So I will always prove that I am superior to Sarmishta. So then she carries her own ill fate with her in the form of Sarmishta. And then Sarmishta is taken as a maid servant, and then Sarmishta serves very menially, very nicely Yayati, and one day she proposes to Yayati, I also want to have children. And then when Devyani comes to know, she again goes to Shukracharya. Shukracharya curses Yayati that you become old. So Yayati, from a young man, he becomes an old man. Now, who will suffer? His own daughter. Right? You see how we complicate our lives so much. None of them saw any interaction with each other based on Ishavasyan principle that everyone is connected to Krishna. Everyone was bringing their ego in between. And what was happening? Every interaction, they were getting entangled with each other more and more. Devyani thought that I will get back on Sarmishta. but actually she was entangling herself in suffering more and more. And the same way for Sarmishta, same way for Shukracharya. His curse actually became a big bane on himself, because then he realized later that अरे मेरी बेटी का पति बूढ़ा हो गया. And then he said, okay, then you can ask your old age, young youth back from one of your sons. So the whole thing is so messy, right? So now, as far as hostel rooms are concerned, I don't know whether there's power to curse each other. Uh, Krishna is kind in Kali Yuga. He has not given the power of cursing. Otherwise, we would be becoming crocodiles and elephants every other moment. But yeah, basically, creating boundaries, healthy boundaries, where we operate based on those boundaries, is always a guiding principle. That first of all, we acknowledge that whatever there is, I am here to share with others, and that principle always helps you be comfortable. Otherwise, okay, मुझे चाहिए था, मुझे bathroom में जाना था, you went and then I was delayed. So when we are in that mood, then we will always keep cribbing and complaining and fighting more. But then, okay, we are sharing, and you go first, not an issue. So you try to maintain that kind of broad-minded behavior, and at the same time keep healthy boundaries, where when you get too much upset, so you tell that, okay, this is my boundary, beyond this please don't encroach. So this is a world of bargain negotiation. Some things you have to just have a negotiation ki isse zyada I can't tolerate. Yeah. But ultimately we have to bring our relationships on the level of common connection with Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Prabhuji, another question. Can I ask one another question?
Okay, you can ask a question and then everyone is free to proceed. Yes, please.
Prabhuji, as you have told that whenever we happen to interact in our life, we create like debit and credit account, like karma, chakra, and all that. So my question is, like in our duty hours, we happen to like interact. We have to have interaction with many people who are not devotees. So basically, we can't preach them as well because they don't like it comes under the ninth offense. So will that create that karma chakra boundaries that they will create account if we don't like?
So I understood the question. So very nice question. So she is asking that now when we are interacting with devotees, we can definitely apply the Ishavas principle. Mutually, we can see the common connection with Krishna. But when we are interacting with the outside world in our profession, in our work, so there, those people, we can't even talk about Krishna. We can't talk about it. We can't draw those lines. So those interactions, if they entangle us in karma. So the thing is that Bhakti Yoga is about the sincerity of purpose and intention. In Bhakti Yoga, you don't judge the action, you judge the intent behind that action. So any activity can actually be dovetailed as in the form of bhakti. Any work that you do, it can be dovetailed to in terms of devotional service. Yashoda Maya is churning butter, but that butter, maybe someone can do it for profit. Amul butter, अपना billboard लगाया, वो butter है भी नहीं, पता नहीं क्या. But you see, the same activity Yashoda Maya does, and that becomes the highest form of devotional service, right? So it is behind the purpose, the sincerity of purpose. What is our purpose behind doing that? What is the purpose in our studies, in our academics, in our work? Why are we doing it? And if our purpose is pure, that ultimately I want to use this wealth, I want to use this influence in service of Krishna, then those activities will not entangle us. And in the Mahabharata, there is an example of dharma vyadha, that you have such an extreme example just to make a very bold point to the living entity. That is the story of dharma vyadha. Vyadha means a butcher, but his name is Dharma. How can the profession of a butcher and dharma go together? But this dharma vyadha is such a spiritually advanced butcher that a great sage whose name is a great sage is sent to this dharma vyadha to receive instructions on dharma, because even though actually he doesn't kill, he doesn't slaughter, he just sells, but he follows certain principles and in such a way that to minimize his entanglement. In that section, the Mahabharata, he mentioned that I do incur karma. He first of all says, I don't kill, I don't slaughter, I don't, I just, as a profession, I am selling this and I know I will get entangled. But then I do certain spiritual practices, certain pious activities, certain acts of charity and sacrifice and compassion to offset the reactions of my profession. So, by constitution, our professions may have certain sinful elements, certain impious elements, which we cannot actually eliminate. But as far as possible, our purpose behind that profession, behind that activity should be pure. But that we should not consider is an insurance, is an indemnity towards that I will not get entangled. We should also be cautious that yes, whatever work we are doing, there will be certain types of violence and sin. So therefore, there are panchashuno yagyas. For the grahastha, there is mentioned that the 5 forms of yagyas, because 5 types of rinas are there, 5 types of sins are there, so 5 types of yagyas are recommended. So, while for cooking, for building, different types of violences are there, sins are there. So certain yagyas are recommended, such as offering food. Before you eat, you go out and say that, okay, is anyone hungry? Offer food to a hungry, offer to the cow, to the dog. So these kind of practices are recommended for the grahasthas or for anyone in that case, because there is in general some sort of impiety and sin involved, and therefore to offset that. But ultimately, a devotee is not so caught up and conscious about, okay, I should not incur any karma. Our focus is not on incurring karma or not. Our focus is on pleasing Krishna. And when that purpose is set, then automatically we act in a way which is pure. Okay, does that?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much. So, we'll thank you all and wish you all a very, very happy Radhashtami festival, and may Shri Radharani bless all of us to become more and more sincere in our devotional service and serve all the devotees, all the Vaishnavas, please all the Vaishnavas, and increase in our sadhana and seva. Hare Krishna. Shri
Hare Krishna,
Ishopanishad ki jai,
Hare
Shri
Krishna.
Prabhupada
Hare
ki,
Krishna.
Shrimati
Thank you,
Radharani
Prabhuji.
ki jai,
Jai.
Jai
Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandat pranam.
Hari Hari
Thank
Bol.
you, Prabhuji.
Tandat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Peace, Hare Krishna.